Picture this. You're sitting on your couch ordering a new smartphone online. It feels instant, right? But the electronic chips inside, they might come from Taiwan. The raw materials? Sourced from all over the globe. The assembly might happen in India or Vietnam, and then that finished product travels literally thousands of kilometers by sea just to reach your doorstep. We live in a world of absolute incredible convenience, but it's also a world of extreme vulnerability. Because think about it. If a single major shipping route becomes unsafe, that entire chain, it completely breaks down. Global trade slows to a crawl, transportation costs absolutely skyrocket, and suddenly the price of everyday goods surges. So today, we're diving into a landmark event designed to protect those exact vulnerabilities. We're unpacking the recent summit where India and Australia signed 18 far-reaching agreements and looking at exactly how this partnership could reshape the entire Indo-Pacific.
Now, you might be wondering, why this summit and why right now? I mean, a lot of international agreements barely make a blip on our radar, right? But this one touches sectors that actually influence our everyday lives. Over the past few years, let's be honest, the world got a pretty harsh wake-up call. The global pandemic completely exposed the severe fragility of our international supply chains. On top of that, ongoing geopolitical conflicts have really highlighted just how absolutely crucial secure trade routes are. And surging inflation? Well, that proved the massive risks of relying on concentrated manufacturing hubs. Governments all over the world suddenly realized they could no longer rely on just a single country for resources or technology. There is a sudden, urgent global need for trusted, resilient partnerships.
Okay, let's dive into this changing global order and look at how the balance of power is rapidly shifting.
Let's actually connect the dots on how a distant political event ultimately hits the wallet of the ordinary citizen. It's like a domino effect. Step 1, you have a geopolitical disruption on the complete other side of the planet. Bam! Step 2, this triggers a sudden supply chain shock. Step 3, as raw materials get scarce, manufacturing costs inevitably rise. Step 4, this fuels inflation and slows down the whole economy. Which brings us right to Step 5, the absolute non-negotiable necessity for trusted partnerships. India and Australia basically looked at this chain reaction and concluded, for sure, that closer cooperation was the only way to prepare for these emerging challenges. They just can't act alone anymore.
Moving on to how we got here, from history to strategy and the fascinating evolution of this relationship.
And this brilliantly illustrates the shift. During the Cold War era, their strategic priorities were frankly worlds apart. You had India following a policy of strict non-alignment while keeping fairly close defense ties with the Soviet Union. Australia, on the other hand, was this steadfast Western ally firmly embedded in U.S. security arrangements. But cut to the modern era, both nations now share a unified Indo-Pacific strategy. They're both active members of the Quad. It's a massive pivot from historical divergence to a really deep, shared strategic alignment.
If we look at this timeline, you can see that exact journey unfold. Back in 1947, ties were pretty modest. Through the 1970s, the whole Cold War dynamic kept them strategically apart. But then, as we move into the 2000s, things start heating up. We see a massive boom in education and trade, largely driven by Indian students heading to study in Australia. By 2020, this had blossomed into a full-blown comprehensive strategic partnership. And that brings us right to the present day, the 18 Agreements Summit. What this really tells us, and this is a key lesson in geopolitics, is that deep, strategic trust, it is built over decades. It does not happen overnight.
So let's zoom out and look at the core geographic theater of all this. The Indo-Pacific reality, the true economic artery of the world. Now, it's really crucial to clarify something here. The Indo-Pacific isn't a formal political organization, like, say, the European Union. No, it is a massive, massive strategic region. We're talking stretching from the eastern coast of Africa all the way across the Indian Ocean right through Southeast Asia and deep into the Pacific. It is, quite literally, the economic artery of the world. A staggering share of all global trade passes right through these specific sea lanes. So for India, this is its primary maritime neighborhood, and for Australia, it's absolutely central to their national security and their economy.
Let's ground this big picture macro geopolitics into a micro reality that actually affects us. If these specific sea routes become unsafe, shipping insurance premiums completely skyrocket. Global trade essentially grinds to a halt. And those everyday products we talked about, from your new smartphone to the fuel you put in your car, they become significantly more expensive. Protecting these routes is no longer just some abstract military priority. It is a hardcore economic imperative that hits the wallet of every single citizen.
Which brings us to Strategic Objective 1, securing that vital maritime trade.
Now, what is truly fascinating here is how the newly updated Joint Declaration on Defense actually tackles modern threats. It completely rips up and replaces the outdated 2009 framework. I mean, think about it. Back then, the strategic environment was vastly different. Today's agreement? It doesn't just look at traditional old-school warfare. It aggressively targets cyber attacks, hybrid warfare, and, this is huge, the security of undersea communications infrastructure. It drastically enhances intelligence sharing and really builds up military interoperability, which is essentially the ability of both militaries to seamlessly plug and play together during a crisis.
Right alongside that defense declaration is the Maritime Security Collaboration Roadmap. And what really stands out here is the heavy focus on practical, on-the-water governance and humanitarian relief. We are talking about coordinated search and rescue operations, joint anti-piracy efforts, and rapid disaster response. It takes these big, broad political commitments and transforms them into real operational day-to-day coordination.
Okay, let's pause for a quick reality check here. It is really essential to view this objectively. You know, a lot of people hear defense agreement and instantly assume, oh, it's a permanent military alliance designed for war. Actually, it is absolutely not. Neither country is out here seeking to dominate the region, and they're definitely not forming some exclusive military lock. This framework is entirely 100% aimed at regional stability, improving disaster response, and ensuring everyone adheres to international law, just to protect those open trade routes. And you can really see the depth of this trust highlighted in their agreements on Coast Guard cooperation and military education. By collaborating on civilian maritime law enforcement, tackling things like smuggling, illegal fishing, and human trafficking, they're improving daily maritime governance. But even more tellingly, Australia has actually invited Indian military officers to serve as instructors at the Australian Defence College. Sharing everyday law enforcement tactics and conducting joint military education, that is exactly how you build the deep, long-term operational trust needed for real strategic success.
Moving beyond just military alliances, let's look at the broader geopolitical impact.
So, the crucial point here is looking at who benefits and who might be affected. Obviously, there are clear mutual benefits. India gains far stronger maritime awareness, while Australia locks in a reliable Indo-Pacific partner. Furthermore, the surrounding ASEAN countries benefit immensely from the resulting regional stability and much safer shipping lanes. But conversely, we have to look at who may be affected. Naturally, regional powers like China, who have their own very real strategic interests across the Indo-Pacific, are monitoring these shifts incredibly closely. It's just a fundamental reality of geopolitics. Anytime major maritime security architectures evolve, nations that depend on those same sea lanes are going to reassess the strategic balance.
All right, let's bring it all together, connecting the dots to real-world prosperity.
Let's move to this breakdown and see exactly how this builds a really powerful domino effect. It starts right at step 1 with that defense cooperation. That direct collaboration ensures step 2, safer sea lanes. When those sea lanes are safe, we achieve step 3, reliable trade. And reliable trade, that guarantees step 4, supply chain stability. Ultimately, stable supply chains result in step 5, economic confidence. What this really proves is that military and maritime cooperation isn't just about security. It directly ensures economic prosperity, lower inflation, and actual job security for ordinary citizens in both nations.
Ultimately, the true importance of this summit doesn't actually lie in the signatures on the paper, but in the decades of implementation that are going to follow. These security agreements, they're really just the foundation. In the 21st century, national strength is built through trusted partnerships and the agility to adapt to a rapidly changing world. So as supply chains shift and our oceans become more contested, the big question is, will this partnership be enough to secure the global economy? Well, I hope this explainer has given you a much clearer view of the strategic chessboard. As always, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, understanding the world isn't about memorizing headlines. It's about connecting the dots.